And so really what the strategy here is, and you can see this on their site, is they have a couple different products that they make available. So one is that the NBA did a great job is they have highlight packages. So you, as a sports enthusiast for a specific team or the league, can go into iTunes and purchase a package of clips. This is a great example of taking existing assets and creating a digital derivative of it and then selling that through to the end consumer. So that's been one experiment they've done. They've also had international pay-per-view. So for instance, you're an expatriate that wants to follow U.S. sports and you're overseas in the UK. The rights aren't as locked down for online streaming, so therefore they're allowing full-length games through subscription using live Windows Media technology along with geo-detection to geo-block and make sure somebody's in a geography that they haven't already sold those rights to a traditional broadcaster to. And so you see more and more of the sports leagues bring more and more of their content online, live. We saw last year that the NFL retained some of their rights to the Thursday night games. And so we saw for the first time last year some live simulcast games on the NFL, full-length games. Prior to that, they had been showing portions of the games online. So you're going to see that the premium rights holders have a really great situation here, is that they can find a direct audience with the consumer and do both live pay-per-view packages as well as VOD and catch-up pay-per-view packages, as well as they can do derivatives of the main live content with highlight packages or packages that cover portions of the games. So you can see more and more of that roll out with the different sports leagues, and it's becoming very popular. So it's a good time, too, as we keep going through this presentation, to think about some questions that you may want to ask at the end. There's an email address there that you'll see with the questions at the RUI email address. Start thinking about your questions, and we're going to have some time after the formal presentation here to take a few questions. So another area that you see a lot of interest in is slightly different than maybe like the NBA or the NFL or MLB, which are these premium rights that are broadcast both on television in all markets pretty much, as well as other forms of media. We have people who've aggregated rights from, for instance, regional sports leagues. So I use college sports television as a great example of, let's say that you're a huge fan of the SEC and you want to watch the games in Southern California. There's a good chance that those games may not be on television, and so you want to subscribe to this package and get rights to watch your games from your alumni or college association that's in the SEC. So that type of model works extremely well online. People are willing to pay quite a premium to see content that might be out of market or out of different geography. And so this started early on with sports content, but it's migrated into other forms of content. So we see different, for instance, your local town radio streaming live online. There's some subscription packages around that. You see that sometimes premier radio talk shows. You've seen things like Rush Limbaugh and other people. You might not be able to get their radio station in your market, so you can subscribe to their podcast. These things where you take things that maybe not be in your market on traditional broadcast and bring them in via the internet have been a very good, solid way to make revenue. And so specifically to college sports television, they use a variety of technologies. They use both Flash with secure streaming, as well as they use Windows Media and Windows Media DRM. So you're going to see that even in a live events model, you can still have a DRM requirement. And so that's going to be negotiated on a per rights holder, whether you're going to have a DRM requirement or not. Most rights holders in premium content are going to have some specific language about what DRM or what rights you're going to have to broadcast online. And so it's very important as you think about your technology platform to think about your licensing requirements. And there might be that you want to go Flash, for instance, and the studio is mandating a Windows Media DRM license. Or it might be the other way around, that you want to go Windows Media and that the studio says, hey, we want RTMPE with Flash streaming as our DRM. So you're going to have an interplay here as you're starting to license your content between the technology and the business terms. And you're going to have to make concessions on what technologies you want to use based upon what type of content you want to bring into your experience. That'll be an ongoing theme that you'll find in pay and subscription models. Another site that I wanted to say is a good archetype is we're seeing more and more of what a lot of what people are dubbing the fourth generation devices. And so these are devices that connect to your home theater system, but get the majority of their content from the web. So they pull in their content off, from online sources, but they play it back in an interface and things that are really designed for a 10-foot experience. So you look at Cinema Now, they have great TV shows, they have some games, movies, music that you can download from Cinema Now. And you're not forced to just download that content to your PC or your device. You can actually download that content to something that's connected to your living room. So you have a lot of flexibility in which devices that you want to download your content to, how you want that content to play back. And Cinema Now, as they're playing back in a lot of connected living rooms, have a very high fidelity in their content. So it's no longer in the subscription or movie. You know, you heard a lot of stories early on with companies like Entertainer, who came in, and Movie Link, who came in very, very early on, and they were dealing with a lot of limitations on the quality of the codecs at the time, the amount of screen resolution that their files could take without getting grainy. Now, with companies like Cinema Now, who are benefiting from consumers having a lot more connectivity and a lot better screen resolution, can actually go up and deliver products that the average consumer would say, that looks like a HD movie from my satellite operator, or that looks like a DVD title. You know, there's no apologizing for the quality of the music or the movies now. The internet has done a great job of closing in that divide. Now it's really just a matter of getting more and more consumers to install these devices, connect them to the internet, and do more and more of their purchasing habits through these services instead of doing physical goods. That's really where the change is starting to happen. So we can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the studios to go direct to a file-based model or the physical good model. At the end of the day, I think a convenience factor for the consumers is we're seeing more and more consumers adopt file-based media. So you're seeing more and more of that and less of the people buying physical goods. So before we get into questions, I also wanted to just talk about some resources in the industry. So we're going to have a much more in-depth and drill in a lot more on the models around these later on in future seminars. But I wanted to talk where you can jump in and really start to formulate a model, because there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can approach this market. So for instance, you may be an individual director or producer that, for instance, created a film, maybe even got picked up at Sundance. You didn't get a distribution deal from a major studio, and you may say, hey, how do I leverage the internet to go out and get distribution for my product? On the other end, you might say, hey, I am a successful studio, I have all this archive of content, I'm looking to potentially go a little bit more direct to consumer. How do I go? What's that model look like? So there's all these different ways that you can think about these models. I've even seen models that are a little bit more scrappy. For instance, I have an art friend who's an art instructor, and the art instructor at a local college had spent the time to tape a bunch of his lectures. He now sells those lectures at a pay-per-view basis on his website, as well as you can order DVDs and downloads as well. So he lets people pick their favorite media. So there's a lot of different categories when we talk about pay-per-view, all the way from systems that cost millions of dollars to develop and deploy, down to with some software that you can freely download from PayPal, you could have a pretty decent pay-per-view experience with a couple of clips that maybe you self-produced. So I think that's really great opportunity with the internet is there's probably a technology fit all the way from the low end, all the way from the high end, and there are business opportunities across the board there. What many companies have found, and you probably have seen this if you've watched some of the advertising-based models, that there definitely is a lot of interest in getting direct revenue from the audience. So if you want to do things like merchandising and pay-per-view and downloads, you don't need millions and millions of people coming to your website to make those models work. If you get a high take rate on a click-through, a few thousand people coming to your site, ordering a $49 instructional video, that's actually a pretty decent business for a small company. So this is a great area that if you can get people to buy your content and your content has a lot of value, it's a great place to start generating revenue immediately.